What up? What it is? What's popping? It's the neighborhood nice guy, Kdot, and I am back with another premiere. This time, it's Codename Mystics, and I have my fave with me tonight, and that's Misha Jones. What
Hello.
is going on, Misha?
Not much, man. Not much. Just riding the high of victory. One in the win column. Very happy for the DMV in DC. Been a long time coming. So excited to talk about that and the season as a whole.
Absolutely. And again, this is Codename Mystics. I know that you heard my illustrious guest on Codename Liberty. However, she gets down and dirty with the DMV, the
You know,
DC area, holla. You know what I'm saying? So
born and
we're
raised.
we're gonna we're definitely just gonna chop it up a little bit. And the first thing we're gonna do, which wasn't on the agenda, however, we have to talk about it, is the victory that occurred on last night. So the Washington Mystics defeated the Atlanta Dream 87-68. And it was a really, really intriguing game to watch because Slim was back. And,
Man.
you know, one thing that I love about Brittney Sykes is that when she first decided to come over to the Mystics, I knew why, right? I knew what the motivation was behind that. A lot of it just had to deal with just looking at the dynamics of the team at the time and saying, "Hey, I think I could be the missing piece on the wing." And no slouch to her. She has done an incredible job so far, but they incredibly missed her. While these last 10 11 games due to
Yeah.
the ankle injury that she sustained in, was it game 2 or 3 of
Three.
this year?
No, game two. Game two.
It
Game
was
two.
game
Mhm.
2. So me personally, again, because I believe strongly that every night someone can get beat and someone is going to compete. The Washington Mystics, they were just out players. They were literally out players. Of course, Aleda Deladon deciding not to play this year. And then with the ups and downs of Shakira Austin and the hip injury and the recovery of that injury, they're taking it a step at a time. It was inevitable when you look at it from that standpoint. But with Brittney Sykes returning, she had an incredible game last night, right? She had
Yeah.
18 points, right? 3 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 67% from the three, 58% from the field as a whole. So let's just kind of briefly talk about that. What were your initial thoughts on the game itself? And how did you feel with Slim back in the lineup, how the Mystics actually played and came out with the victory?
So first of all, I'm just so glad that she's back. It's a sigh of relief, not just for her, for Eric Tebow, for that entire organization, just because, like you talked about, she came to DC for a reason. And I feel like she's a player, one of two players or three players on this roster that I think are built to play for the Tebows. I know it's Eric's team, but Mike Tebow came, laid the groundwork. So I always want to make sure I give him his props. But yeah, Slim had a fantastic night, and I just think she gives them more juice. You know what I mean? That this Mystics team is one that I happen to think plays best when they play with pace and when they defend with intensity. And what does Slim do? Both of those things. She's one of the quickest people on the floor, one of the most explosive, dynamic. And so when that ball has pop and they're moving well, I think that, that only helps them. And Slim brings that kind of vibe. But just so happy that she's back. I'm glad that they took their time getting her back, as frustrating as it was for Mystics fans, and I'm sure for her and the team. In a season where you're already 0-11, 0-12, it's like, what's the point in rushing her back when you want her to be a cornerstone, a building block of the franchise moving forward? So, all in all, just really happy for her, happy for this team.
Yeah, and I strongly agree with you with those sentiments. And just to kind of go into detail, she is obviously, one of our, key players that we talked about in our quote unquote pre-production, right? But what interests me overall from this team is when I looked at this team in the offseason, and of course, granted, we had some key pieces that are obviously missing. We have Elena Delle Donne, as I mentioned earlier, that is missing due to the decision to forego the 2024 season. But you had a key piece in Natasha Cloud leaving to go to the Valley of the Sun. And
I see
that
the jersey.
one was the most, to me, surprising
Yeah,
because she was, like you said with Slim, I truly believe that Natasha Cloud was one of the cornerstone, pieces and one of the cornerstone players of that 2019 championship. If we keep
absolutely.
if we keep it a bean, the shot on the wing is the reason why they win the WNBA finals. And
Man.
I truly believe that that shot pretty much gave her the additional confidence that she's had. She has been an impact player since then, and has moved on to the Valley of the Sun with the Mercury. However, you still have Ariel Atkins, right? You still
Right.
have your third overall pick a couple years ago with Shakira Austin, even though, of course, we're getting her back to form with the hip injury that occurred last year. You have your number 6 pick in this year's draft, Aaliyah
Yeah.
Edwards, and the 31-year-old rookie. That's my
How about
favorite,
it? How
Julie
about it?
Vanloo. Like she gives me, oh my goodness, she gives me so much Tisha Penichero and Marine Johannes vibes. Sometimes the
Interesting.
way that she, you know,
She
the
got a
way that
little
she
flair with
passes,
it.
she got
Yeah.
some flair with it, right? And I really enjoy watching her play. And then of course you have Jade Melbourne
Hmm.
with that as well. So highlighting the contributions from players like these, um, I know that we're sitting at 1-12. However, there's still development, and I wouldn't say promise. However, again, there could be a situation where they could indeed make noise and compete,
And ruin
um,
some days, you
and
know?
ruin some days for some other teams that are
Yeah.
incredibly trying to compete. So, what do you think in that regards?
Like I just said, I think this is a team, we saw through the first 12 games of the season, like teams should be scared when they see the Mystics on the schedule because this is
Absolutely,
not a pushover team. I think, prior to the win against Atlanta, I can't remember a winless team that has gotten more respect than this one or that strikes more fear in the hearts of their opponents than this one. I mean, you see teams fall into a hole like this early and their energy is bad and they seem lackadaisical and there's attitudes, there's this, there's that. The energy has never dwindled. And
absolutely,
I think
fact.
we gotta point to, the Julie Vanloos and the Jade Melbournes and the Aaliyah Edwardses, the folks who came in and are like, okay, I might not have expected to play this big of a role or a role at all, really, but now I gotta step up to the plate because my team needs me to. And I think, they've got a roster full of players like that. Carly Samuelson, you know what I mean? I thought she was a
Right,
great pickup. She has only been, a pest on defense more than I kind of expected her to, honestly. Hitting threes, Steph Dolson. Like we could talk about the entire roster if we want to talk about different skill sets coming together to make this Mystics team what it's been thus far. Especially when you've got a team, and I talked about this in the offseason and the preseason too. When you've got a team that doesn't have a real focal point, like you could argue the beginning of the season was Ariel Atkins, right?
right,
Once Sykes went down and because Shakira's been in and out. You could argue that. But I think, Ariel Atkins works best when she has, I don't want to say a Robin, but like she works best in a duo to me because she's not someone, as much as I love her game, I don't know if I'm just gonna give her the ball at the end of the game like Arike Agumbawale and say, okay, go to work, And so the Mystics don't really have someone like that. Um, I just think they've got a collective of skill sets that can mesh well when they're playing the way they're supposed to play. And again, I mentioned when the ball has pop, when there's movement on offense, when the defense is intense, when they're not, chasing, they're dictating on the defensive end. So yeah. But to get to some specific players, I mean, I also don't want us to lose sight of one person I think is going completely unsung, which is Shatori Walker Kimbrough.
yes. Let's talk
She
about it.
has, I mean, the steps she's taken in the first quarter of this season. It's exactly what Eric Tebow wanted to see from her. He's talked about it in pressers. He wants her to be more aggressive. And every time they have conversations about the way she can improve, that's the feedback that he's giving her. And I mean, she's answered the call. She's been finding her spot. She's not forcing it like I feel like she has in past seasons. And if you watch her celebrate some of these plays she's making, it seems like she's feeling herself a little bit too. So I'm
Absolutely.
happy to see that. I think, on any team, you need your bench, you need the folks who are coming in and not starting to have that kind of juice off rip. You don't necessarily have the time in a league as good as this to wait for them to get percolating. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to make sure I gave her a shout out. But yeah, all the players you're talking about have come in and done wonderful things, made some mistakes, of course, but done wonderful things to sustain this season for the Mystics.
And one thing that's incredible to me from a coaching standpoint is the way that Eric Tebow manages these minutes. Like you see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of players coming in and out in certain lineups. And me personally, again, I think that the Mystics are one of the most watchable teams that have, taken those bumps and those bruises because of the injuries. And I probably am saying this out of the side of my neck right now, but I feel like they have been the team that has shown the most continuity with the uh least pieces that they've
Mm-hmm.
brought in. And even though again, a lot of those losses weren't like incredibly bad losses. Like
No,
let's just
it's we
like
can
they've
point to one
all
part of the
been,
game
yeah,
for all
they
those losses.
exactly. You
Yeah.
every game that you've seen that the Mystics played, there has been one stretch where they couldn't find a bucket, or there may have been some lapses here and there that
Mm-hmm.
caused a run, and they just couldn't get themselves out of the hole. So that's the most intriguing thing that I like about what Eric Tebow has done. I know that people and fans have a lot of things to say about Eric Tebow. However, I just personally believe from a basketball standpoint, in watching the film and just reviewing games after it's been live, I'm seeing this and I'm like, well, no, it was this stretch in the third quarter where Ariel Atkins um, probably didn't get a touch. And yeah, we could put that into some perspective where maybe someone else had the hot hand at the
Mm-hmm.
time and they got cold.
Right.
And they just didn't realize, oh wow, they're cold now. Let's see if we can get some more offensive sets going. Or it could just be a point where you're playing against an incredibly talented team who are just cold in the first half, and then in the
Right.
third quarter,
Turned it
suddenly
on.
they're turning it on. And along with coaching, I hate to bring this up, but Sunday,
Mm.
the infamous 8-second call that could have
Why you gotta go
potentially,
there? This ain't on the rundown. This ain't on the
it's not
rundown.
on the rundown, but I saw your tweet on
Yeah.
Twitter, and I understand the frustration. I
Mm-hmm.
truly do, because a lot of people were confused. First off, let's just briefly give the listeners and the viewers a synopsis of what happened on Sunday. So, Jade Melbourne, I believe she lays the ball up on the left side. They're now down one, but Nigel Laney takes the ball out. Sabrina
19.7 seconds left.
19.7 seconds left. Sabrina Ionescu was dribbling. She gets in trouble. She kills the dribble. She passes it to Benai Jelani. At that point, it's like 11.1 seconds left, and she's still in the backcourt. And then she chucks it to Jonquel Jones, who lays the ball up. And ultimately, that layup becomes from a 1 point game to a 3 point game. It's 91-88 at that particular time. But still, 19.7 seconds left, and Benai Laney still has the ball in her hands at 11.1 seconds. That is past 8 seconds. And for those who don't know, in 2024, the rule has changed from
Mm-hmm.
10 seconds to 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that tweet, I said, oh no, we might have to talk about this. And I know she's going to be frustrated because I asked. So I'm not going to ask you how you feel because I already know how you feel.
I
But
feel better now. Now that they have a win, I feel a little bit better about it. It was more so at that point, like I said, they were winless. And that
right.
would have been,
Yes.
not to say they would have won that game because they were still down 68-69, if I'm not mistaken, at that point in time. So they would have had to go and make a play,
They would have had to make a
which
play,
by the
right?
previous game, we saw execution was lacking. And so I'm not saying they would have won that game necessarily, but they were robbed of an opportunity. You know what I mean? They were robbed of that
Absolutely.
opportunity. And I think for a team like the Mystics that have had the situation that they've had with the injuries and the people sitting out and everything. It's just I was gutted for them. You know what I
Yes,
mean? And
absolutely.
I also
Absolutely.
want to address I got a lot of people asking me, well, how do you expect the ref to make that call when the shot clock had turned off at that point? So they don't have that as a reference. And to that I say, so if we just want to say, okay, they can't see the clock and we just never call backcourt violations once the shot clock is that's a slippery slope. A,
Yeah.
B,
Rules are rules.
yeah, rules are rules. B, we've seen officials in there. Okay, they train for this. They train for this. I actually had somebody in my mentions as well saying that they're a ref who does, train for those kind of situations. So at the WNBA level, you know what I mean? We need legitimacy. We need refs who know that they can make that call because they're prepared to make that call too. And then three, I just I'm not here for the cop out. Like I think
Right, right.
in the rule book there's no review for a situation like that, but to me all of these factors are calling for us to insert that into the rule book because we should
Absolutely.
not be having situations where the end of the game we lose the integrity of the game in the last 20 seconds because the shot clock is dead. That just makes no sense to me. So I wanted to address that. But yeah, it doesn't hurt as much. I try not to let it hurt anyway, in the journalistic capacity. I just observe and, but living here and hearing from the Mystics fans, it's tough. And I'm glad that, they were able to redeem themselves on the road at Atlanta. But yeah, we gotta tweak some things around the 8-second violation for sure.
And I strongly agree with everything that you said. And I am happy that you were able to express that on this show because obviously there are no rules in this
Right.
show, and I'm so glad that you were able to address that because I was so hurt for you when I saw that video. I was like, oh God, my girl. Oh, and now I was like, I'm looking at it, and at that point, I forgot that the rule changed. And I was like, no, it's 10 seconds. But then I said,
Nah.
no, it's 8 seconds. Because
Yeah.
I even tweeted, I was like, guys, it's 10 seconds. But then afterwards, I said, no, I literally the week before read the rule book literally, and I said, oh no, I gotta backtrack that because it is indeed 8 seconds because they changed that rule in addition to the other timeout rule is
The
basically
reset.
the
Yep.
reset timeout rule. And that's in part of it. Basically, they want to continue to allow the
Keep it
game
moving.
to keep it moving, right? So
Mhm.
the last thing that I do want to talk about, we have maybe about 5 or 6 minutes left, is just like you said, the injuries. And it
Mhm.
was brought to my attention that Brittney Sykes had might have tweaked something in her foot
Mhm.
after the game. So do you have any news on that front, or did someone just make that up? What's
I
going
haven't
on with?
heard that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I haven't heard that. My go-to source, boots on the ground, is always Kareem Copeland because
Shout out
he
to
does such a
Kareem,
shout out to Kareem,
big
always
time,
keeping the people informed.
big
But
time.
I have not seen anything from him,
Okay,
discussing. Oh no, actually, he did say she tweaked her left foot. Okay, so Kareem said it. It is law.
okay,
However,
okay.
Brittney Sykes tweaked her left foot in the fourth quarter, the same one with the high ankle sprain. So, that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
But hey, it is what it is. Again, would rather have her have a full recovery than, go try to win one game and have her, re-injure things. But there you
yeah.
have it.
And just and Shakira Austin, right?
Mhm.
Because to me, like Shakira Austin, I was so high on her coming in to the draft a couple years ago. She has
Mhm.
shown so much growth. She is one of the premier bigs that we have in this league.
Mhm.
And I know that hip injuries are so tricky to recover and rehab from.
Yes.
So what's the latest on that front, and what do you anticipate for her return to look like?
So obviously she sat out at Atlanta. It's kind of
Mhm.
been a she's in and she's out. We're using her minutes and we have to allow her time to rest kind of situation. So the goal is to shrink the amount of time necessary between her feeling good enough to play
Mhm.
and you know what I mean, the next time she feels good enough to play. Like let's shrink that. But again, Kareem is my go-to. He said she was out last night. Haven't heard any updates on her as of yet, but yeah, she also completely changes the complexion of this team when she's back and
Absolutely.
she's in the lineup. I just hope folks don't forget about that. I thought, even the first game of this season, I mean,
Yes.
New York needed time to, get their sea legs under them. I think Stewie did as well. But I mean, I said it before, Stewie, every shot she took was magnetically attracted to Shakira Austin's hand that entire game.
Absolutely.
She was moving well. She was being aggressive. She got that when she plays with that edge, and you can tell she's playing with that edge and not kind of, checked out. She's darn near unstoppable. And it's not that she's doing anything crazy. It's just she's got a nose for the ball. She's relentless on the glass. And she got a little, she does have some in her bag. I don't know if you've seen
Oh
her
yeah.
overseas highlights, but she be bringing
Listen.
that thing up. She be, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot more in Shakira Austin's bag that we just haven't quite seen yet because she hasn't been healthy enough to show it to us.
Yeah, and I am incredibly I've always been excited for Shakira Austin and the way that she plays. I am again, I'm just a basketball guy.
Mm-hmm.
So because the Washington Mystics just have that knack for competing, I love watching them win
Yeah.
or lose. I just love watching this team play, and I am incredibly excited still, for what this team can do, whether they have decided as a front office to go in a rage for Paige or not. So that's the running joke right now within the 9450 realms. Like, going to rage for Paige. So it's, yeah.
I'm gonna steal
So,
that. That's funny.
so I think that from an overall standpoint, of course, health is the biggest thing,
Hmm.
but the pieces itself, and we haven't even talked about Maisha Hines Allen, who has
Yes.
been a beast, spelling those minutes for when Shakira Austin is out of the lineup for those particular nights. I love what she has done, as a veteran for this team, and it's again very exciting to watch. And I think that from just the overall standpoint, again, I keep saying it, I just love how this team competes.
Hmm.
So we have concluded our Codename Mystics talk, but I am trying to kind of pseudo get Misha to kind of, us do kind of like a code name thing every once in a while. An exciting game might happen. I might hit her up and say, hey, you want to talk about the game right quick? So this is kind of like my pitch to you, maybe.
Not the pitch live. No, I already told you, man. Anytime you want to talk Mystics, anytime you do Mystics, yes, hit my line, please.
Perfect, perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Thank you for listening to Codename Mystics. It has been an incredible one. And before I go, I have to do the bill paying thing that they always talk about, the commercial stuff. So the 9450, we're brand ambassadors for SeatGeek now. So if you're looking for live events, hit up SeatGeek, your number one source for live events. Use the promo code the 9450 and you can get $20 off your purchase. That's the 9450 SeatGeek, number one source for live events. Make sure you follow the 9450 at the 9450 on Twitter and YouTube, at the 9450 underscore on TikTok and Instagram. Follow myself at Kdot on Twitter. Well, Kdot 3H. Yeah, you can do that. And obviously, follow my incredible guest, Misha Jones. And it's Mish, the journalist, but the way you spell it
It's
is
convoluted for no reason.
Yeah, so the way that it happens when you spell it, Twitter is going to automatically kind of try to look for it. Mm-hmm. So I am going to allow Misha to kind of like spell it out for you guys so that I won't mess it up. So go ahead.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
It's Mish the journalist. It's MISHTHEJRNALIST. Yeah. I decided I wanted to take some vowels out and not others. I made that thing when I was like, I don't even know how old. So, we rocking with it now. It's part of who I am. So at Mish the journalist.
We're rocking with it for sure. And also, this is my Canada Dry sibling as well. This is an inside joke. So shout out to the Canada Dry people.
Shout out Canada Dry. I'm throwing shade to anybody who drinks Schweppes.
For sure. Well, again, this has been Codename Mystics. I am your host, Kevin K. Lewis. And as we always say, love is love. Peace.